Welcome back to my golf fantasy podcast. I'm Ryan. That's Wendell. Got a lot to get through today. The Cognizant Classic just finished up, and we got the Arnold Palmer Invitational coming up next week. So let's get to it. Fun, interesting finish to the Cognizant Classic. And Wendell, for you, kind of maybe helped and hurt your lineup for DraftKings this week a little bit too.
Yeah, the bear trap got a few people this week. It made it for an exciting finish. As we kind of mentioned last week on our podcast, that string of holes was really going to make or break people's rounds and would often be the holes that are going to dictate who the winner is going to be. And sure enough, that was the case this week. Yeah, my lineup, I had two guys going through it there that were fighting for the win, and really felt for Shane Lowry. Led the tournament by 3 shots with 3 to play, and just unfortunately, kind of fell apart with 2 doubles there, and gave Nico the win by a stroke, which was made it for an exciting finish, but really felt for the guy for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? I was watching the first round. I usually get to watch most of the first round. And he was, I think, was like -1, -2 after the first round. But this guy was hitting shots like crazy, and he just couldn't drain putts. And he was putting them tight. He was having a fantastic round. His playing partners were scoring better than him. And you could tell he was playing so much better than them. So when he started to turn on round 2, round 3, it made a lot of sense. But then, yeah, that just tragic, bear trap right at the start there. He just went double. I think he was like one of the only players to put it in the water on 16. Like, they have this like nice graph of like tee shots that week, and you see one ball just dead center of the water and short. And it was Lowry in the 4th round. And it was just like, man, that's devastating. You play 68, 69 holes of pretty much like consistent, solid golf, and one tee shot just ruins it for you, right? Different if that's round 1 or 2 for him, but he's got some holes to try to recover, another round to recover. But man, that just is a soul crusher.
Yeah, it makes you kind of think of what his mentality was going into those holes, because you got to think he was trying to be a little conservative. 3-stroke lead. He's like, I could power in probably and win this thing. It just kind of goes to show, like, that you got to keep that kind of aggressive mentality. And maybe he just, for whatever reason, he had a kind of lapse in judgment those couple holes, and it really cost him. But the other guy who I had in my lineup last week, Nico Echevarria, obviously a big win for him. Finishing 17 under par. He's been a breakout player, I think, this year. You've been on him all year. I had him early on in tournaments. I fit him in my lineup this week and was fortunate enough to get a great performance out of him. A couple other great performances too. Taylor Moore and Austin Smotherman both finished tied for second, -15. I think that's both their top performances on tour, if I'm not mistaken, too. So great showings by them. And Brooks back in the PGA mix, obviously, tinkered with some of his equipment there midweek, and moved over to the TaylorMade Spider putter, which ultimately really helped him those last 2 rounds. I think he shot 65 in the final round to come, I think it was 10th, which again seems like he's kind of starting to regain previous Brooks form, and we'll see how things go here. I'm sure he's trying to get ramped up for Augusta in a month or 2. So.
Yeah. And you know what? The crazy thing about Brooks and his putter was in the first 3 tournaments he played, his putting was atrocious. His shot making was really good. He's been the top 25, top 30 in like approach and off the tee. And his putter was like near the bottom of all of tour. He just was losing strokes on putting like crazy. So, you mentioned it to me. It's funny that, he changes the putter and then all of a sudden he's now shooting mid-60s consistently on a 1 club change, So like, why didn't he think about doing this, at the beginning of the round, right? His putter wasn't helping him at all before, right? Did he go into this thinking, hey, I got this backup putter just in case? He must have had it. He didn't go to the pro shop and just all of a sudden buy a TaylorMade Spider putter, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I'm sure a lot of guys are looking at maybe making the switch. I did some research on it, and 5 of 7 tournament winners this year so far use the TaylorMade Spider putter. 4 of the top 8 players in the world, the official world golf rankings, are using this putter currently as well. I think only about 15-20% of the entire tour is using it, but more and more guys are converting, and obviously it's showing in the numbers. Like, these guys are winning tournaments with this putter, and they're up there in the top of the strokes gained category in putting, the ones who are using this. So I might have to go get myself one. It's starting to make me question if the Scotty is going to keep be able to stay in the bag, but we'll see.
Listen, you've turned over your entire bag this year, so relax, huh?
It's not the player, it's the clubs, Ryan. It's the
Yeah,
clubs.
right. Hey, in Brooks's case, it's the clubs, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
no, great performances. I was on Nico early in the year, and and if you look at his trajectory too, he missed the cut in the first event, and then kind of slowly just like making cuts, finishing 60, 40, 30. He had the top 10 2 weeks ago, and then gets the win. So good on him. Solid, like escalation of performance to get that win finally. So, and he's back in the field again, isn't he, this week? So, can he have a repeat performance? Can he carry that into the Arnold Palmer Invitational? Now, when you
I don't
look
think
at
he
the
is in this
field,
one.
yeah, I mean, take a look at the field that he played against. A
Yeah,
win's a win, right? You still get paid, but
yep,
that field that he's going to compete against this week is much harder than the field he just competed against at the Cognizant Classic. So, but yeah, let's get into it with how we performed, this week. And I'll tell you, it's not something that I'd say I'm proud of. But if
yeah.
let's start with my golf guy. Something this is another competitive week for us. It I would say that it wasn't tight the whole time because of Mackenzie Hughes' first round. Went +3 to start, but really turned it on. But Homa in the last 3 rounds just matched him shot for shot, and Hughes can never catch him.
Yeah, Homa, I know you were saying you were off of him a little bit and he hasn't quite proven it to you. And I just kind of really took him again just based off of his comfortability on these Bermuda greens and just the way his game's been trending. I thought it was he had the potential for a breakout. Didn't quite give it, top 15 finish, obviously, which is super solid. Round one hurt him +2. He really kind of fired back round two with 66 -5. 69 -2 in round three, and then 67 -4 to really finish solid in his round four and jump up in the leaderboard. Overall, just strong play. He made an eagle, 11 bogeys, 18 birdies, 42 pars. I mean, he had one bogey free round as well this week. And so, all in all, really solid showing for Max and, keeps him really a guy who I want to keep on monitoring here week over week. Cause I think over the last year or two, we haven't really seen the Max that we had previously, who was kind of really breaking out on tour. He's been making cuts and playing okay, but just very inconsistent. But I think he's given us some consistent showings here this year. And so excited to see how he continues to perform.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I said it. His mental game is the part of his game where you can't trust him week to week. But definitely put up a good showing this week, and just touch on Mackenzie Hughes. He had to fire a 65 in the second round, pretty much just to make the cut. I think he finished 2 shots into the cut line because he started with a 75 +4 to start in the first round. And at that point, I was ready to give up on him. I was ready to pack it in. But also the cool thing about Mackenzie Hughes, is one thing is why I picked him. He had 6 bogeys, right? He had one double, but he had this is not a guy who puts up big numbers. 15 birdies, right? He also for a DraftKings lineup, he's probably not like the most efficient player because he's not draining a lot of birdies and getting eagles and then following it up with bogeys, right? Where, if a par is, zero point 0.5 points, a birdie is 3.5 and a bogey's -1 or -1.5, whatever it is, you're positive at even par if you get the birdie bogey combo. Mackenzie Hughes is a par guy. The pars and a few birdies, right? So that's kind of like he performs. But especially in a DFS, you kind of maybe want to stay away from him, which I didn't last week, and he put up a decent performance, but not super solid, which we'll get into in a minute. But I like the Homa pick. I'm glad he came through for you. Got you off the losing streak 3 in a row there.
Yeah, it's nice to get back into the winners column. I think we're all tied up here now. Interesting too, looking at maybe some of the finishes our guys. I think you've out finished me. If we look at where our guys have ranked again, these are guys we're taking that are typically outside the top 10, outside the top
Yeah.
15 in consensus picks, and so they're long shots normally, or not maybe not long shots, but they're definitely not top 10 guys in most tournaments, and so we're trying to really find that diamond in the rough who can come in and outperform his where he's ranked at in this week in any given week. So But yeah, good win for me. I'll take it, and looking forward to another one this week.
Well, let's get into the DFS lineups because, like I said, the Lowry thing, it helps and hurts, right? Because you had Echeverria and Lowry in the lineup, but you could have got a 1-2 outright instead of a 1 and a T2 or T3, whatever, you know.
What's a double bogey? -3 points, I think. I think
Yeah,
it's
and he got
minus
two of
three.
them.
So kind of have it like for me to lose 6 points in the last three holes for Lowry. It really took me from like I think a top 750 finish or top 800 finish in DraftKings to around 1,000. Still was in the money. You know, I'm still happy to make a little return on my investment here this week, but it definitely hurt. It definitely hurt. But yeah, I'll kind of walk through my winning lineup. So I don't know if you guys see at the bottom there, but I beat Ryan by exactly, well, almost 200 points. So got me back in the lead here in our season long DFS challenge. Really, I really like my lineup and how they performed. You know, going from some of the stronger performances, obviously Lowry finishing tied for second. We talked about the struggles he had at the end of where he couldn't close in the final round, but really consistent guy. I mean, round three for him, shooting a 63 -8 really is what kind of catapulted him into contention and gave him the ability to get into that position late Sunday. But the guy was super solid. You touched on it. I mean, he was missing putts early on, shot a 70 -1 round one, followed that up with a 67 -4 round two. And then I mentioned the 63 -8 in round four or round three, and then 69 -2 in round four with two doubles in the last three holes. So like he was super solid, had a bogey free round. Aside from those two double bogeys, he only had five bogeys all week, and he mixed in with an eagle as well. So I was taking this guy. I knew he was going to be high owned. He was at 9,900. So that's the finish I wanted from a guy I'm taking as my anchor
Yeah.
here, right? Aside from him, Ryan Gerard was a disappointment, really, at 9,700. I mean, you need him to finish in the top 10 somewhere. He just really struggled in the first round and just then was consistent the rest of the way through. Shot a 67 -4 to get into the weekend. Well, it got in by two shots, but it was looking a little dicey there for a while. And yeah, just really couldn't at -7, tied for 23rd. Just okay, but again, where he's 40% owned and I took him at such a high price tag, really would have liked to see a better performance. I was very happy with Max Homa's performance, as I already kind of mentioned, finishing tied for 13th. At 7,900, he outperformed his salary by a long shot. Very happy with that part of the lineup. John Parry, wasn't super excited about him. He was consistent throughout. Right? He shot even par round one, -1 round two, -1 round three, and then +4. Really struggled round four. So uh, again, he was kind of a shot in the dark. Somebody that pieced together in my lineup that I just fit in there. That I liked his game, but just didn't perform. I was happy he made the cut, obviously, to get me points on the weekend, but would have liked a better showing. And then probably my diamond in the rough, obviously, this week, taking Nico Echevarria. He was at 7,400, finished first. I mean, the guy was 8% owned. You couldn't ask for a better pick there and somebody to win. Had the other components of my lineup, like John Parry and Tom Kim, who we'll talk about in a second, and Ryan Gerard, had they played a little bit better, this lineup really could have been, a potential winning lineup. I feel like if a few of those players, performed a little better during the weekend rounds there. So and I'll finish obviously with Tom Kim. Really thought he was out of it. Round one shot a +4, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have at least one guy missing the cut in my lineup. But surprised me, and round two shot a -4, and really could have been a lot better. He finished bogey. I think he bogeyed two of his last three holes to shoot -4 and make the cut on the number. So it's a little bit. I think he parred the 18th, which was a little bit of a nervy par because he made another bogey. He would have really just dropped the ball there in his fourth round. But all in all, 523 fantasy points got me, finished around 1,000th in the tournament, and won me a few bucks. So I'll take it. Plus the win with you, it's almost like I won thousands of dollars. So
Yeah, I mean, my lineup was just hurting from the beginning, and I like Lowry, and I probably could have squeezed him in, for the extra $200. I could have taken him over Gerard. But I liked Gerard more, and like you mentioned, he just didn't have it. Interesting thing, when you looked at the leaderboard after day one, even to take the leaderboard at the from the morning session, right? You had Echevarria and Smotherman, both -9, -8, I believe it was. Two of them sitting at the top of the leaderboard, and then the next guys were -4, right?
mm,
These two guys took a huge lead. And when the round one ended, the afternoon start guys, they were, I think it was 5 of the top 20 were from the afternoon starts. And it was like, and then it got really really low. And we're talking like there was 5 guys that were better than -2. Like that's it. The morning start was far more advantage. I had 4 guys start in the afternoon, so just killed my team. I'm going to blame it on the weather and stuff like that. And so not that I overlook these things. It just, I don't know if the morning start's better or the afternoon start. I don't know which one's going to be better.
It's
I think one
tough.
week I just might just take all morning starts and just see if it works, or just take all afternoon starts and just roll the dice to see if that's going to happen. Right. And see if these guys can get on a roll. But that really started to hurt. And the good news was Nikolai Hogard. I've liked him for the past few weeks. I think I might even sneak him into my lineup. Oh no, I didn't. I took him out at the end this week, but he's put up another 100 points for me. Biggest disappointment was Thorin Bjornsson. Put up 26, missed the cut, and he went +1 even. He missed the cut by 1 shot. So that was kind of disappointing. He had a double bogey on the scorecard as well. That pretty much ruined his chance of making the cut. So that hurts. Mackenzie Hughes, decent, 73 for a $7,500 player. It's okay. Like I said, he's typically not high scores, but I liked his game, so I thought I'd keep him in there. Especially, he was number 1 around the green on tour, and that's why I went for him. And then SH Kim and Putnam. I mean, I don't really want to talk about these guys. They just bogeyed up the scorecard, right? Kim, 9 bogeys, right? Putnam, 4 bogeys and 2 doubles. You're not winning tournaments. You're not making cuts if you're going to put up these kind of stats. And listen, they had decent stats for this course, but I think the course was just harder for some of these players who put up, you take the strokes gained on approach or strokes gained on putting. It's relative to the tournaments they've played, right?
Right.
And when you play a little bit easier tournaments, you can start gaining some of these strokes in some of these categories. And when you play the Cognizant, which is a devastating course. It is a tough track, and it ate these 2 guys up big time, right? We talked about the water last week, how much water were on these holes, the sand around the green, and the troubles you're going to get into, and these guys just couldn't handle it, and that was the big difference. So this week I may have paid a little bit more attention to some of these things, so hopefully to recognize that I could possibly get some better stats out of some of my guys. But yeah, you got a 200-point win almost on me there. And like we mentioned, I had the lead for a while because your Aaron Rye drop at the Farmers Insurance. Well, I just gave it back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe we could put like a star beside this one too to show that it is the largest win of the season as well so far in terms of
Well,
point
the
differential.
American Express doesn't count, but it's the largest. It's the largest gap. Yes, it is.
I meant the largest gap between the 2 of us. So just something to think about here. But yeah, no, it was yeah, we got you by almost 100 now, which is it's nice to play with that, and happy that Aaron Rye's in my rearview mirror, and I don't think about that being an issue anymore.
You know what? I let you have a couple. I didn't want it to be 200. I was gonna give you 100. I wanted you to stop crying about Aaron Rye a little bit. You
We
remember
still,
the time Aaron Rye dropped out 5 minutes before the tournament started? I didn't want to hear it anymore.
no, that's fair. That's fair.
All right. Well, listen. Let's move on to this week. Arnold Palmer Invitational. Let's talk about it. The Bay Hill Club. Classic course. Tough track. I believe this is like a Tiger Woods special, isn't it? Doesn't he have
Yeah,
like 6 wins here in his career or something like that?
he's got a ton of wins. I think it might even be more than that. It might be like 8.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is a fun one. Signature event at Arnold Palmer's Bay Hill Club and Lodge. Still in Florida, obviously, Orlando, Florida. The course is it's a little longer. Par 72, almost 7,500 yards. Big purse, $20 million purse. The format's, it's another 36 hole cut too. So top 50 and ties, or anybody within 10 shots of the leads. It's definitely something to keep in mind of when you're building your DFS lineups here. You're going to want to grab some guys who not only are going to be there around the weekend, but are going to make some pushes on Sunday. But Um, it's defending champion here, Russell Henley, another guy to keep in consideration for your lineups. But when we're talking about Bay Hill specifically in the course, it's a course where guys are going to shoot, quite a bit under par. It's typical winners anywhere between 15 to 20 under par. Still, like, we're in Florida, wind's going to play a factor here. It's a course where fairways and obviously greens hit is going to directly correlate between players performing extremely well. It's got a few really signature holes. It's got a few par fives that are all the par fives are reachable. I guess is the first thing. They're all kind of a risk reward style, with waters or bunkers, surrounding the greens or some of the approach shots or tee shots, and so shaping and kind of the strategy here with some of these players are going to be critical. And guys are going to have the ability to make birdies and eagles on these par fives. So they're really going to be a few. They're really going to be something to watch. And then aside from that, there's quite a few par threes that are over 200 yards, 15, 221. Well, hole 17 is one that kind of stands out. Long par three that often is one that positioning on the green is extremely important. It's got a lot of undulation. There's going to be a lot of three putts there, or guys are going to hit the green and think they're in a good spot and it's going to roll off. 17 is going to be one, and then 18 too, par five, 458 yards. It's a really challenging finishing hole. There's water and bunkers throughout the entire hole. Mini tournaments here. I think your approach shot, you're actually hitting over the water, and it's going to be really crucial that ball striking and approach execution is on point for these players coming through the last 16, 17, and 18. 16 you're looking to make eagle or birdie to kind of stay up with the field, and then hole 17 you're holding on trying to make par, and probably similar with 18. So it's going to be a tough track, but it's one just to kind of talk on. Actually, before I won't talk too much on kind of where the strokes gained and what's going to matter, but some of the things that you're going to look for at this course that is really going to play critical is there's a lot. It's long. Tee shots are going to be demanding. Guys are going to have to hit it decent ways to get it in play. Approach accuracy is going to matter, and then par five scoring opportunities, as well as guys who are putting well. Those are the guys. If they can take care of those four areas, people are going to be at the top of the leaderboard here this week. So it should be an exciting one.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we always pick three, and you threw the fourth one into the putting, which I find putting is always crucial, right? You can't putt, you can't win. But
It's the
yeah, I
Bermuda
mean,
green putters, man. I talked about it last week, and they all made the cuts. And it's something you got to take into consideration. These Bermuda greens, they're something that not everyone's used to, right?
yeah, I mean, so for me, it's funny because when we take a look at my lineup, these are guys that have performed well over the last couple of weeks, and they've been Bermuda greens the last couple of weeks. Hopefully that helps me, make some decisions here. But yeah, you're right, and that's 16, 17, 18 stretch. Hopefully nobody pulls a Shane Lowry on the 17, 18. But it's a classic finish to golf where you get that par five to try to get up there, and if you don't turn in a birdie at least, you're hoping to just get pars in the 17, 18. And if you need to make up a stroke, you better make it up on 16 because 17, 18 isn't going to give it to you. But, when you got guys, with Tiger Woods, right, winning here as much as he has, those talented players are those guys who are going to make shots on those tough holes and perform well down the stretch, right? And like we saw from Lowry last week, right? When you're in the lead, you're coming down the stretch, the pressure's on. How are you going to perform? And I think that's going to be the most fun finish this week is watching 2, 3, 4 guys sitting in the top of the leaderboard coming down the home stretch, and how are they going to perform, right? Are they going to buckle under the pressure? Or are they going to perform well? And the funniest thing is that we got, compared to last week where the household names weren't quite there, we got a star-studded field this week, and some of these guys might be like Rory versus Scotty on the way in, right? Which would be just like an all-time classic. That's what you hope for when you watch these two guys go at it, right? So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Par five scoring is definitely a big thing. Big thing for DFS lineups, right? Because those eagles, they give you a ton of points, and obviously bogey avoidance to get those extra bonus points. But definitely par five scoring can really make a difference in your DFS lineups this week. It's what I'm going to talk about when we get to mine, actually. Before we get there, though, let's talk about who our golf guy is this week. We had the series tied at 3. Wendell got the win last week, first time in 4 weeks. So let's see who we got.
Yeah. So my golf guy this week is Harris English. A couple reasons. I mean, what I really kind of looked for in a guy here is obviously a lead approach play, strong tee to green, and good putting, par 5 scoring, obviously too. But he was tied for second here in 2023, tied for 22nd here last year. Has made every cut so far this year, and all have been top 30 finishes. So right off the bat, I mean, this guy is having a great 2026, and with his previous performance here, makes him a very attractive guy who is really outside that top, 10 in regards to, players who we expect to, win here this week. So he's, putting is positive for him. He's typically around like the middle of the pack. He's ranked 50 or 60th on tour right now in putting. And around the green short game metrics are typically above average for him when it comes to kind of scrambling and everything. So short games are a huge strength of his. He's a guy who I think, based on his previous experience here, based on his previous play this year in general, who has all the tools to win here and be super competitive. And so, sign me up all day for a guy who's outside the top 10 in consensus, who's been playing as well as Harris English this year. And I just couldn't not take him this week. So he's my golf guy for those reasons.
You know, it's funny you say that because the exact explanation is what I want to give for Jake Knapp. And you know what? He kind of flies under the radar for me just because he's not that household name yet, right? Played 5 tournaments this year. Only one wasn't in the top 10, and it was an 11th place finish. Okay. And he didn't play the non-signature events. Okay. Played the Sony, sure, but he played the Farmers, the Phoenix Open, Pebble Beach, and Genesis. He played all signature events. Last 4 weeks were T5, T8, T8, T6. This guy, last four tournaments he played, all top 10 performances. He is on fire. I think it is an insult that he's plus 3,800 on the odds. I picked him thinking this guy's a top 5 performer almost every single week potential. So for that reason, plus on top of that, so he is 4th in par 5 scoring. Remember I said par 5 scoring is going to be one of those key stats. 4th in par 5 scoring so far this year. He is 26th off the tee. Okay. Those 2 reasons, Jake Knapp's my golf guy. Easy pick for me.
I like Jake. I've been on him as well. I had him in a few lineups in previous weeks, and he's performed quite well for me. And just a guy that I didn't quite get the chance to fit into my lineup here this week. But and it's also something that I kind of left off which I meant to talk about in regards to Harris English is he's actually second on tour right now in strokes gained off the tee, and 19th in driving accuracy. So 2 extra things to throw in there. And his, par 5 scoring is 35th on tour as well. So it's definitely 2 guys I think that are going to compete this week quite a bit. Jake Knapp, his game might be in a little bit better form. But I don't know. Did you give some results here from his previous tournaments that he's had here, Ryan? Or
I haven't. Is this what you're gonna do? You're gonna school me on his previous results? Is that what you're gonna do?
I never planned to. I just I actually don't even know if he's played here in the past, Ryan. I just didn't know if you did the research and homework to see if he's a guy who knows the course. That's all.
You know what's funny is I didn't, but I didn't not because of overlooking it. I didn't because I almost didn't care. Right, this guy was so hot coming into this event that like I'm confident in him. I normally do, and when I'm kind of deciding between 2 players, I wasn't deciding between 2 players. I picked him. Like this is my guy. I don't care if he's played here before. And listen, he hasn't played, for a very long time on tour. So yeah, he probably played last year or the year before, and I could look it up, and I don't think it'd change my mind.
Okay. No, I just was curious. That's all.
All right. Well, since your curiosity is running, you have first dibs at it this week. DFS lineups for your massive victory last week. So let's take a run through on what your lineup looks like. And ours actually not too dissimilar in some of these things.
We've had a few weeks where we haven't had any overlap in players picked, and now we've got a couple that are on both of our radars that we like a lot. So I chose to stay away from Scotty as much as I didn't want to. I like the lineup better without with having a little bit more balanced approach this week with all like such a great field. It's not so bad if you got to I guess it's not so bad if you take Scotty and you got to go with a bunch of guys in the sixes because of that as well. So I guess that argument could be made because there are a lot of players playing well here, but I just really liked a more balanced approach. Went with Rory as my anchor. I mean, he's proven here at this course. He's won it before, but he's also tied for 15 in 2025, second in 2023, coming off a tie for second finish at the Genesis. I mean, strokes gained approach to green this year. He's first on tour. Off the tee, he's not so well this year right now. He's midfield, 92nd, and putting, he's been significantly below average. I mean, he's still in the top 100, but his elite approach plus, still strong tee degree game and scoring ability, I mean, is enough for me to outweigh the putting issues this week. And I think if this putter even spikes a little this week, he's going to be, he's going to be around the lead here for sure. I think he's a very safe play in that like 11,600. I think he's a guy you can really lock into like a top 10 finish pretty much in every event he plays right now. So Rory's my kind of safe pick at 11,600. By picking him really allowed me to take two other really strong guys in the fields. Colin Morikawa, second here in 2025. He's already won at Pebble this year, and he's coming into this tournament after finishing tied for seventh at the Genesis 2 weeks ago. Third on tour in strokes gained approach. And he is 14th on tour off the tee right now. So Green, he's one of the best iron players in the game, plus his quality, like off the tee metrics. I think he's got a very strong strokes gain profile that suits this tournament well. Just given where his game's at right now, I think he's going to be somebody who also has a chance to win here this week. So that's kind of taking two guys towards the top of the salary range. Rory at 11,006, Morikawa at 9,600. Then I went with Harris English. He's a guy who, again, I really like this week. He was tied for second here in 2023, tied for 22nd here last year. And you can tell, like, I asked the question to you because, I always like to know, where guys have played well in previous tournaments because there's a comfortability aspect. I feel like guys know the course. Yeah, sure. Their strokes gain metrics might be a little skewed for whatever reason, not a great fit, but for whatever reason, they perform well because they're comfortable there, right? And so Harris, I already talked about him. He's finished top 30 in all his events this year. He's at 8,900. I think, a guy who has the ability to win here and previous performance, as well as where his game's trending. I think he's a good value at 8,900 and a guy that can be pieced into so many different lineups. Strokes gain putting, he's usually an above average putter, usually around 50th on tour right now. Around the green and short game metrics are above average across the board. He's not kind of a top, strokes gain driver or approach guy, but his putter and short game make it up for it tenfold. So like he's a steady, balanced scorer, a balanced guy who I think at courses like Bay Hill, he's proven to do well, and I think he's going to continue to do that here this week. So after that, it kind of makes my bottom three a little difficult because I really got to dip down into the 6,000s range. But again, with a tournament like this where it's so elite, I really felt pretty good with some of these guys. Every guy that I'm picking here has made every cut this year. They're consistent, really strong value plays whose games really tend to line up well for this course. First guy here is Denny McCarthy, tied for 18th here last year. As I mentioned, he's made every cut he's played at this year, all top 56 finishes. A lot of them have been great finishes, but all kind of in that top 50, 55 finishes. And he's a guy who I really think he's above average. Like this year, he's above average strokes gained off the tee, kind of in that top 70 range or top 50 range. Sorry. And then when it comes to like approach numbers, he's mid tier. He's nothing too fancy, but he's a salary saver, I think, with really good ball striking tendencies, and he's and enough kind of ability strokes gained off the tee to really compete. And again, these are guys that I'm taking the sixes. If one of them kind of wins, great, or what comes in the top five, great. But really, what I want from these guys is like top 20, top 25 performances. I'd be very happy with, and a couple of my other guys kind of finishing in the top 10s. Next, I'm going with a guy, Patrick Rogers, tied for 22nd here last year. He's also made every cut so far this year with 3 top 45 finishes. He's a guy who I think he's definitely not elite, but again, another value play here who is safe. I feel like he's very balanced, really, in all of his categories, middle of the field and kind of strokes gained approach and tee to green. So I think again, at a guy who's going to be at 6,400, he's a safe pick for me. And with his previous experience here coming in the top 25, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for him to have another top 25 finish. If he can replicate that, he's a steal at 6,400. And then finally, finishing out, I took Taylor Moore. He's a guy that you've been on this year a few times. He's just jumping onto my radar now. Obviously, very strong showing last week, tied for second at the Cognizant, which a great showing by him. He's also coming. He's got a top. He's made the cuts here before. He's got a top 50 finish, and I'm really relying on him to keep that momentum going from last week. So this is more of a play on a guy's previous performance and him kind of again taking that and building that off that momentum coming into this week and having another strong showing. He's got he's a top 50 guy in strokes gained putting. And again, I know putting wasn't a huge one on your list, but I continue to kind of pound that one when it comes to these Bermuda greens. He's very middling when it comes to approach and tee metrics. So nothing kind of crazy there. But he did kind of spike a little last week. And he's a salary value, I think, with legitimate kind of approach and putting upside capabilities. And he's got really a strong ability to make cuts. And so again, at a guy at 6,400, I think he's extremely undervalued. He's probably, especially after last week's performance, should be a guy in like the high sevens or something like that. And so I think that's a huge Taylor Moore. I think this week is easily one of the best value plays. So that's kind of rounding out my lineup, and looking forward to seeing how it performs against yours this week.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Taylor Moore. I was high on him, like you said before. This is really his first signature event this year, right? He gets the T2 last year in non-signature event. He did the American Express and the Farmers Insurance, and had around 50 place finishes in those two, with some solid starts to his tournaments, and then died off near the ends. But I'm gonna start with him just because you're finishing with him. He's hot right now. He can score with eagles, and he doesn't score a lot of bogeys, right? And that's kind of the biggest thing. He also I have him as 50th in par 5 scoring, so above average, and off the tee he's top 30, right? So. He's definitely a solid player at 6,400. And if you notice my lineup compared to yours, I only went in the 6,000s one time, right? Now I had to pick the best guy down there. I saw Denny McCarthy. I'm not high on him, especially after early season performances when I took him and he let me down. So I'm gonna stay off of him. I also like Patrick Rogers too, but Taylor Moore to me is the guy that is riding a hot streak that I think can, perform quite solidly at this event. If you want to start at the top now, Rory. So it's funny because Taylor Moore was a guy that, I was almost like a lock to take him. I was kicking myself I didn't take him last week. And Rory was a lock for me this week. Rory his numbers are fantastic. First in par 5 scoring, 7th in approach greens. Greens in regulation. So his putting is his worst thing. And I wasn't high on the putting. I told you that. He's like 77th or something like that. Strokes gained putting. So I was more on the fact that his par 5 scoring is high. Off the tee, he's 36. I'm not sure if you mentioned it, 36, 35. But all those other stats, this guy is pure elite. And when pressure hits, he performs. So easy taking him. Scotty's first round woes have been, I took him twice this year and he puts up +4, +5. So I am not ready to handle another Scotty stress. Can I make the cut with shooting a 65 in order to just make the cut line and then come in with 2 course records to try to win this thing again? No, I'm off for that. Give me Rory and call that a tournament for me. So then Jake Knapp. So I did check now. Jake Knapp, he has one performance here in 2024 where he finished 57th. So, not a great history here. One of those rounds he shot a +9. Okay. So, but he followed that up with an even par in his 4th round that week. So I don't mind. It still doesn't take me off. And Jake Knapp is on fire. Essentially, give him 5 top tens, and that 11th place performance, just throw it in the top 10, and he's
Hey
good.
man, it makes me feel good about our my guy competition here. So I'm happy you brought those stats up.
That's okay. You'll feel less good next week when we talk about it. So I already talked about Jake Knapp, but definitely at 8,600, honestly, I really think undervalued here. This guy should be in the 9,000s with his type of performance. Jake Knapp was almost a lock for my lineup. I did look at like a Morikawa, even Fleetwood. Fleetwood I think is close to 10. So, that would have just given me too much money, right? I would have had to take a lot of guys a little bit lower down, and I didn't want to go there. So I went with the McIlroy Knapp combo. And then I took Chris Gotterup. So the funny thing about Gotterup is I took him one other time this year. And the time I took him was the Genesis where he got cut. So, I was riding his 2 wins, top 3 top 5s and stuff like that. Then he goes and gets cut from me. I think he's going to perform better. He came off the cut at the Genesis, got the week off. His stats very good. 4th off the tee, 22nd in par 5 scoring. This guy can bomb the ball. This guy has fantastic strength. Even if he gets in trouble out of the rough, this guy just powers through it. So I'm very confident in his ability. And obviously also not of great history here, but also very young and inexperienced on PGA Tour overall, and it hasn't hindered his performances at the Phoenix or at the Sony where he finishes first. So I definitely I'm taking Chris Gotterup at $8,300, a 2-time winner this year, playing fantastic golf. I can't let that overlook that. Next on my list, the next 2 guys, pretty much left me with that 15,000, just over, I think 15,500 mark. And I was kind of hovering, and I didn't intentionally pick 2 guys at the 76, 75, right? I was looking low and I was looking high, see if I can get another 8,000 and 6,000. And I wasn't confident in the rest of the guys in the 8,000s and less confident in the guys at the 7s. And I'll talk about the guy I left off. I mentioned him earlier, but Pearson Cody was on there at 76. So Cody, 7th off the tee, okay, 11th in par 5 scoring, 4th in greens and regulation, okay. Now, his putting, different, 87, but I'm going to look past. I'm looking past putting this week. Okay, I know you're big high on putting. Putting week to week, so maybe these guys will change their putter halfway through the round to
I just need to switch to the TaylorMade Spider. That's it.
So I'm not worried about it. You know what? These guys are gonna put themselves. Pearson Cody is gonna put himself in a situation where he's going to perform, and he has done that so well this year. I already had him once where he finished top 5 for me. He finished 2nd at the Farmers. He finished top 10 at Phoenix, 16th at the Genesis. This guy can perform, and this guy is great at par 5 scoring, which I absolutely love. He's a birdie machine. He out birdies his bogeys by a long shot, so that's why I'm very confident in him this week.
Now, did you just in that 7,600 range? It's interesting because I think you have a few hundred left in salary. Like,
Yeah.
were you on guys like obviously Bridgman's at 7,700, Justin Thomas making his first showing here this year at 7,600? That could be a huge value play, but also a lot of unknowns. I think obviously for me, obviously Jason Day, obviously up there too at 7,700. Just looking at it, obviously, with the way Bridgman's game's trending, I mean, he could be a great value play this week too. So just curious to see if you looked at those guys or not.
Yeah, I mean, Bridgman I've been high on. I wanted to take him last week before he bowed out, and I
Yeah.
had him in his win 2 weeks ago. Love Bridgman pick, and absolutely could have gone with Bridgman. But you know what? I like Pearson Cody better. I like him better this week for this course style. Bridgman is maybe like a little bit less of a, all birdie, all go with sprinkling some bogeys. I think Cody has the makeup of performing better at this course. And then even if you take out Patia as well, when you look at Patia and Bridgman, Patia really does, he has, I think, 2 seconds, I check in a second. He is like easily, he has a T3 and a T6 and then a T16 in his last 3 tournaments, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of outdoes Bridgman a little bit, right? And he does it at the Phoenix, Pebble Beach, and the Genesis, all signature events. This guy is finishing top 10, top 15 against the best in the world, right? Yeah, Bridgman wins one, sure, but Patia is playing a little more consistently. So the two of them, I think, took over Bridgman. Now, the JT pick, right? So let's go back to when we talked about Pebble Beach. Right, there was quite a few players that were making their debuts at Pebble Beach, including Rory. And remember, we were off them all, right? We were off Rory, we were off Lowry made his debut there after he won the previous year or 2 previous years after that, before that, and we still wouldn't put him in our lineup because it's their first tournament, right? And the same reason probably why you didn't pick him. Maybe you can answer it. You had some weird money thing probably where you 7,700 really would have messed up your lineup. For me, he was right in range. But for me, his first tournament for a guy as experienced as JT is, I'm not taking him this week. It just makes me a little too nervous. And you could have mixed him in, pulled up a Denny McCarthy or Patrick Rogers to 77, 76 and dropped Morikawa down to somebody like Jake now. But you
Yeah.
didn't do that either.
I mean, listen, this is always the competitive lineup that you and I are having. I will have another lineup with him in it, no question. I think, the reality here is like he's been playing golf leading up to this. He feels like he's good enough to make this his kind of comeback event. And uh, he's had some strong performances here before. I was looking into it a little bit just because he was on my radar. Like 2025 came tied for 36th here. Obviously, he's a guy who has the ability to win if his game's in the right form. So I think at 7,600, like if he started the season without having, obviously surgery and the concerns there and the rehab and where he's at in that, I think this is a guy up there in like the 9,000s or 10,000s we're talking about. So he has the ability to be a top tier guy in this event. It's just he's priced here because of the unknown. So you're taking a gamble. But again, I think a guy of his caliber, he's not coming into this event wanting to be embarrassed, like being like, hey, my game's not ready and I'm not going to be like come here at a signature event ready to play. I think he had this on his calendar and knew this was going to be his first event back and wanting to get a certain amount of events in before Augusta. And so I think he came back earlier in the season. I think 100%. And he just gave it a couple extra weeks to be ready for this one. So I think he's going to come and surprise people. So if just talking about it, I'm definitely going to make another lineup. He's going to be in there. It just won't be the competitive one between you and I.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, if he comes out and puts up a top 5, I'm not going to be super surprised, right?
No.
This isn't like, look what JT did and is unexpected. No, he has the potential to, put up a very solid performance. But yeah, do I want to put my competitive lineup and him in it as being as unknown because he could not make the cut and nobody's going to say that, oh, look how poorly he played. No,
Right.
nobody's going to say that. They're going to say, oh, first event, he's just getting used to it. He's warming up for the players and the Masters, because essentially, to me, that's exactly what he's doing, right? He doesn't want his first tournament to be the players of the Masters.
Yeah.
And so you get into a competitive tournament, something of course, he's familiar with. Sure, he may not have performed super well here in the past, but he's still familiar with the course. He still knows it, still knows the landscape. And you know what? And he's probably going to be placed. I haven't checked the groups yet, but they'll probably put him with some playing partners that are going to be very comfortable for him on his first tournament back. So JT could definitely put up a solid performance.
Well, I 100% agree. I think he's going to, and I think he's so close with Tiger, right? And Tiger, I looked it up too as we were talking. He's won this event 8 times, and so I think Tiger's going to be watching this quite closely. It meant a lot to him, and JT and Tiger's relationships is obviously so close. You hear them talking about it multiple times, where JT's like his little brother and stuff like that, and so it's. I think he wants, this is a term that he wants to win because he has not won it yet. I mean, he's won 22 times on tour, and this is one of them ones that just hasn't quite been there for him. And so with all the previous results and success Tiger's had here and how close he is to him, I think he wants to win this one. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's been ramping up for this one and he's ready to go and comes in the top 10, top 5. So he's a boomer bust play. I don't think you're going to see like a mediocre finish here. It's going to be a top 10 or maybe a missed cut. It'll be interesting to see, but I do think he could be the best. I would say like Taylor Moore is, but I think Justin Thomas could be the best value play in this whole tournament if he kind of hits his ceiling where he's capable of here this week.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was just looking at his last year, when he came the start of the season, right? See how good he is when he starts off coming off the end of the season. He had a fantastic start to the season last year, right? Tied for second, tied for sixth, tied for ninth in 3 of the 4 tournaments. If this is his opening tournament and he's fully healthy, this guy starts the season well. This could be his start to the season where he just comes out and puts up another top 10. And like I said, if he does, nobody's going to be surprised, right? And if he finishes 50th, nobody's going to be surprised because they could just
Yeah.
chalk it up to him being, not performing on tour for a while, right? But yeah, I'm sure Tiger's giving him some uh cliff notes on the course and stuff like that. So I want him to do well. I'm just not confident putting him in there. And I found, 2 guys. And even then, you want to throw Jacob Bridgman in there. I found 3 guys that can definitely, I think, outperform JT this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I didn't mean to get you off of your lineup there. I was just kind of picking your brain on what your thoughts were on them. I'll let you get
Yeah,
back
no,
to
I
it.
mean, I think that's it. But Tia, he solid performance across all categories. I mean, there's not much more to say. I mentioned it. He's got type T3, T6, T16 last 3 tournaments. He's coming in really hot, hotter than my boy Hatsatsune, which he's at in the low 6 or the high 6s, which I could have taken him too. But Patia's, I think, got that edge over him. Round 4 scoring is what Patia does better than Hatsune. And that's why I would take Patia over him. But got similar profiles, similar performances. I really like him. Well, that's my lineup. You got yours in. Anything else to bring up for this week? Just enjoy the event, huh?
Yeah, enjoy the event, get those DFS lineups in, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how this all plays out here this week. I think we're gonna have a competitive my guy and competitive DFS matchup here, and yeah, it's gonna be an exciting one again.
I agree. Enjoy the final holes in all these rounds, especially round 4. That's going to be probably a big swing. I'm hoping it is. That's the most enjoyable thing for me is watching these swings happen at the end of the tournaments. It's the makes the events more exciting than just runaway winners that Justin Rose took away from us in an event earlier this year. So everybody enjoy the tournament, enjoy this beautiful golf course, and lucky Tiger's not in the field, or else he might win it again.
Yeah, best of luck, everyone. Have a great week.
Cheers.